Hey, I'll probably go back to the chair. I've been liking this lately. I'm playing with the lighting, trying to get used to it. So listen, stop watching the news. It's not the news. It's propaganda. It's too much nonsense going on. Most of you are just repeating what you hear. It's not your own thoughts. When an event takes place and they're talking over it and giving you all these scenarios, and you don't really know anything yet because they don't know anything yet. That's not news. That's not news. So yeah, you got to stop doing it. By the way, my name's Mike. If it's your first time here, and this is my Sunday night chat where I typically talk about kind of like the stuff that's happened over the past week or whatever I really want to talk about. Whatever was on my brain at any given time, which is a lot. And there's a lot going on in my life that has been keeping me from focusing on other things. And I'm reminded this week of why I stopped watching the news a long time ago. So, I mean, I pay enough attention to kind of understand what's going on. And I found these places on YouTube that I really like because there's a lot of these independent journalists they're going to the scene, they're going to places, they're talking to people on the ground. And it's just better. So you get more nuance that way. But it's very hard, and social media gets harder and harder. And that's something really got to me this week. This woman I know, this Asian lady, real cute, uh, lesbian, identifies as a lesbian. She was saying how, social media is just, I'm thinking about just leaving it all now. And she's not the only one. And it's funny to me because that's how the left feels right now. And the rest of us have been going through those feelings for about 12 years now. Because everything's been coming at us from this other side of bullshit. We're like, a lot of us saw through the bullshit every time. And we have our little sources for information. And, Fox News was one of them, and I'm not saying that everything on Fox is 100% all the time from the jump. But the good thing about Fox is, and the difference between them and the other channels is that, and I'm talking about just the news, not the opinion shows, just the news shows, they have people on that have different points of view, and then some of which people on the left would agree with. They have a lot of lefties on there. And then you can hear that argument. And then you can hear the other person's argument, and then you go, okay, I hear what they're saying. And then you're going to hear things that they're going to use to back up their point of view some of the time. A lot of time they don't do that at all. It's all coming from emotion, which doesn't mean anything. But when they do give you some information, this is where it came from. Well, now you can go look up that information. This is the difference with CNN and MSNBC. NPR is the worst. When I listen to it, you hear one point of view. That's it. There's no rebuttal to it. PBS has a lot of nonsense on there as well, and it's a problem when you're getting everything that's one sided, and they're all agreeing. Then you've got to say to yourself, "Uh oh, there's something wrong in there." I remember when Fox News first came along. It's a long time ago. This is whenever it was, because I was a CNN guy. And I remember watching CNN, and when Fox hit the airwaves, pretty much from the jump, CNN was marginalizing Fox News and making fun of it and saying all these things. And I thought, maybe I should watch it. And when I started watching it, I was watching these particular shows that weren't news shows, like Glenn Beck and O'Reilly, stuff like that. And they would say things that was like, wait, I never heard that before. And I would look it up because, we had the internet now. And I'd find out that they were telling the truth. I was like, wait a second, what's going on? And that's how it started to jump out at me. But I'm going to go all the way back. I'm going to go back to when I was young and, we didn't know anything. I remember being a kid. We had Walter Cronkite, and everybody heralds Walter Cronkite as this bastion of modernism. Didn't take his side, but he was a hardcore leftist, Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite. 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 I'm Walter Cronkite, and this is the news. But I could tell you, he screwed us in Vietnam with the whole Vietnam thing. He was over there during the Tet thing. He came back. He was scared shitless, and he said that basically we can't win the war. And he swayed public opinion in one direction there. That was on purpose. That was just a thing. And that's not something I knew at the time, but it's something I saw happen as a little kid. And, I remember when Jimmy Carter came around, and I was just a kid. And my mom, I was like in 76. I was 9, going to be 10 years old in 76. And I remember my mom asking me, hey, who do you like? I was like, well, Jimmy Carter. Because he was like this, he seemed like this nice guy, smiling guy. And he was. Jimmy Carter's a nice man, great man. But he's a weak president. He did give up the Panama Canal. He did a lot of things. He created the Department of Education, which is a fiasco. Yeah, that was not a good thing. I don't care what you think. I'm telling you, you're wrong if you think the Department of Education is a good thing. Terrible thing. Every metric that they told us would improve if we implemented it has been 180 degrees opposite directions. All the numbers are down. It's been horrible. And all it has done is create a bureaucratic monster that's taken more money out of our pockets to put into the pockets of people, these administrators who basically their job is just to take any of the nonsense, the latest nonsense that's coming into Washington from all kinds of different directions, and then implementing it through the school system. That's how we got this whole woke thing and the transgender stuff and all the stuff, the sex change operations, the sex in schools. All of it happened because of these evil people, really. And they're demented. Anybody that wants a government job where they're able to tell other people what to do, they're demented. You're a demented person if you want to tell other people what to do. Yeah, it's not the American way. You're supposed to be free. Yeah, language, the whole thing. I'm going to start doing stuff on language when I get on stage. It's going to freak people out. So, it's a lot of bad stuff's been happening, but it's not all bad, And right now, what I was hoping, well, let me stick with this because I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day about this because I remember when I got out of the Marines, I was 20 years old. I wasn't really paying attention to the news. And a buddy, Todd, when he got out of the Army, I was going over his house and he always had the news on. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And we would have these discussions. And I remember being in my early 20s, 21 years old, you go to the bar maybe, have a beer at lunchtime. And then people talking about what was going on in the world. I was like, I don't have an opinion. So I started trying to pay attention to it. I started with reading the paper. And that's when it hit me right off the bat. I was like, wait a second, this is written on like a 4th grade friggin' level. Like I'm not, what's going on here? And I'd figure out like they're not telling me just what happened. They're also telling me what to think about what happened. That just jumped out at me as a problem. As I was watching the news on television, same thing. And that was wigging me out. When cable news came along, I liked it because initially it was, cameras there showing you what's going on, talking to the people. It became more manipulative as it became more powerful, as more people started watching it and they started making more money. So you just can't trust what you're seeing. As I've explained to you before, the way the programming works is there's a real event, here's the footage, we're going to bombard you with this footage, which could be horrifying, scary, or whatever. It's going to emotionally get you attached to it. And as they're showing you the imagery, they're narrating over it, programming your mind with all these ideas that might have absolutely nothing to do with what you're seeing. And this is the problem. This is what we're seeing right now with the plane crashes and the tariffs with Trump and everything else. Trump is telling the truth when he talks about tariffs, when he explains the history of the country, and he tells you that there was a time when we didn't have an income tax because the people running the country at that time cared about the country and they were smart and they made sure that the way they were doing business with all the other countries in the world was benefiting us financially. That's what made us stronger. And they also recognized that we were a powerful force in the world. And our military was nothing what it is today. But we did have a huge Navy. And we were all over the world doing deals. And look, if you want to get into the history of this, and you want to talk about things that happened, I forgot to put my lotion on. If you want to talk about things that happened, you know, when I'm in the South Pacific, places like Fiji and I mean, hey, we went in there and screwed some stuff up, man. I mean, went to war with people and just took what we wanted. Companies went in there and did it, and I'm not saying that's great, but it happened. That's just how it is. And but we're not the only country that's ever done that, and we did it because we could. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what everybody does. And other countries that complain about this stuff because they can't, if they would have had the means to do it, they would have. Don't go thinking that other people are better because they couldn't do it at the time. That's what they do. That's just how it is. But you have to understand that something happened decades ago where people were in power that set things up, and they were bribed by big companies and other politicians and companies and banks, where they started doing these deals with other foreign countries to come in and basically take over a lot of our manufacturing and all that. And all that was moved out. And they started putting into place regulations, much of which was based on bullshit and junk science and things like this. We were lied to in many cases. And the people who support this stuff based on the environment and all that, they've been lied to, but they believe it. And they don't really care about the environment, because if they did, they would care what the other countries are doing, but they don't. You understand what I'm saying there? Like, you make it more difficult for us to be able to produce our own stuff, mine our own minerals and everything else, produce our own fuel from what's right underneath our feet. And so you make it so that other countries around us that we deal with get rich off of us, while they're doing the same stuff we would be doing on our own without all the same regulations that we put upon ourselves, which kneecaps our ability to do the job. So you understand what I'm saying? Like, the manufacturing was taken away. A lot of these companies, the stuff that we used to do and produce, was all moved overseas, and it made a lot of these people rich. It made big businesses here rich. It made politicians rich, which is the big deal there. And it has been ruining our country. So it's not good. So I think the whole idea with the tariffs and everything, it's going to be a bumpy road a little bit, and some things might cost a little bit more here and there. But overall, between the tariffs and the energy costs coming down, things are going to even out. It's going to take a little bit of time. I think within the first couple of years of this administration, you're going to see things shift. And I also don't think that a lot of these tariffs will last that long, because I think that the economic problems it's going to cause in some of these other countries is going to force the people in those countries to put pressure on their own governments to make them deal with us. And that's what you got to do. You don't want to have to do that. You wish you could just go talk to somebody and get a deal. But look, we had presidents doing this thing my whole life when it came to the UN, and all they did was screw us over. We're the police for everybody on the planet, whether you like it or not. That's just how it is. I'm not saying I like it either. I'm just saying, and they weren't paying their 2%. Last time Trump was in, he got them all to pay, and he got them to pay what they owed. So just chill out. This thing with the deportation, this thing that the media is telling you about, like, they lie all the time. The whole thing about, it's all farm workers. It's bullshit. The people that came here, a lot of them that came here from Venezuela and out of Mexico and a lot of the Central South America countries, not all of them. Obviously, there's a lot of women and children. There's a lot of people who want to come here and do better for themselves, just like everybody else in the world. But that doesn't mean you can just walk across the border and then be given everything. It's insane. It's been killing us. It all comes out of tax dollars. These NGOs, non-government organizations, it turns out that they were funded by our tax dollars, and they were going down to these countries and busing people and flying people, bringing them all to Mexico, and then getting them across the border. And then when they did that, they had the people. It's a whole friggin' thing they had set up. from them to fill out these forms for asylum and everything else, which is all bullshit. There's legit reasons to seek asylum, but we know in this case a lot of it's bullshit. I don't know who these people are. We got measles outbreaks. We got all kinds of crazy stuff happening because people are coming here from other places and they haven't been vetted, and that's a friggin' problem. So right now, they're going after the people who are actual criminals. When I say that, some people on the far right go, hey man, everybody came here as a criminal if they didn't come through the correct channels. Yeah, you're not wrong. That's the truth. So if they go in to take somebody out that was a criminal, murderer, rapist, child pornographer, that sort of thing, trafficking of other people, regular normal crimes as well, assault, breaking in the home, you know what I'm saying? Fucking criminals, okay? If they go out and capture them and they happen to be with people who didn't necessarily commit any other crime other than coming into the country illegally, which is a crime, well, now they're going away too. Okay. You want to know what the genius of that is? It is that the criminals are no longer going to be able to be housed, safe housed, by people from the same place they are, or people speak the same language they do. Because those people aren't going to want to get deported. So the criminals aren't going to have the safe havens that they have now with their own family and friends and that sort of thing, because those people are going to be afraid. So, as a matter of fact, you're going to probably start seeing, if you haven't seen it already, people finally now, because they've been afraid to do so, reporting on known criminals who are here illegally, which is their number one crime, but the secondary thing is they're one of these other fucking scumbags. They're going to start getting turned over by their own people. So that's it's a thing. To think that we shouldn't be doing it is crazy. It's just insane. It's an overwhelming thing. And this is all, Cloward Piven strategy, the Saul Alinsky thing, rules for radicals. This is what they've been doing. So I'm just throwing that out there. Naively, I thought to myself, man, the media has to wake up, right? After this last election. Like now we know, because a lot of people that watch this stuff, that lean to the left, the Democrats or worse, they had this false belief that, and a lot of them think this way, they all think that what they think is the way it is. It's pretty bad. Left-leaning people really think that they're right about everything. It's friggin' crazy. It's like they think they're mind readers. They think that, it's just so nuts. And I want to get to this with me personally. I want you guys to understand me a little bit better here. I'm going to give you a little bit more history here. But this whole thing it's just making me crazy. You would think they would have learned. Now that they know that the majority of the country actually leans more to the right. Most of the country is center right. That's just how it is. And with Trump winning the popular vote and everything else. And with all the truth coming out. The problem is that CNN, MSNBC, PBS, NPR, I mention those four all the time because they're the main four that people have been watching this whole time for the last 12 years, really. And they're the ones that don't disseminate the truth. And then there's shows like The View and things like that. And a lot of these people get fined. They got to pay thousands. That Trump has won now court cases with different channels. They've given him millions of dollars because they lied about him. Do you know about that? Do you even know? And I always go back to the Hunter Biden laptop thing all the time because when that came out, it was suppressed. Now we know Zuckerberg was pressured, right, by the Biden administration to keep the truth from you. And the thing that really irks me the most is that the people that are on the left, and I'm not talking about just your average people who are being brainwashed with the bullshit, because it is your fault to a certain degree by now. Like at first when it started happening, I can see how you believe it all. But after all these examples of them lying to us when it came to COVID, when it came to the masks, when it came to them closing down schools, and all the bullshit that they pulled that turned out to be all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's a problem. And there's going to be somebody in here that's going to go, oh, yeah, you're spreading misinformation. No, I'm not. Look it up, man. Masks never worked. And if the vaccine worked, you wouldn't need a mask anyhow, you know. And there's all the common sense things that made sense to the rest of us while it was happening. It was like, wait a second, we couldn't understand. And now we're all coming. Now, the beauty of what's happened with the Trump win this time is that now we're able to go out there and now put the stuff out there on social media and not have it taken down, not get shadow banned anymore, and have our pages closed and all of it. Um, that's a good thing, but it should have been happening the whole time. I don't know, man. I would have thought that they would have woken up a little bit, but they're not doing it. They're still doubling down on hate and trying to make Trump seem like he's some kind of racist or something, and it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. You just got to stop watching it. The only way this stuff is going to change is if we all stop watching it. Just got to stop watching it. Now, as far as me, because I'll get this, I'll get people will say, "Oh, you're a racist too," or this, that, or the other thing. I'm the son of an immigrant, and I'm Greek. And I haven't done my 23andMe, but I'm pretty sure I got a pretty, you know, divergent, is that the right word? Pretty good mix in me, of blood. There's a lot of white there, but there's a lot of other, Middle Eastern, African, that sort of thing, just because the nature of being Greek. That's just how that is. And putting all that aside, I mean, I grew up in Jersey, man. And, I went to, we moved around a lot. And I lived all over North Jersey, but when I was going to school, it was a pretty diverse group of kids going to school, especially when I was in Patterson. Half of my class lived in the projects. They were black kids and Puerto Rican kids, Not too many Asians at the time at that place. And I was a pretty popular guy, and I hung out with every different clique, and I lived alone in high school. And but I could hang out with the jocks, and I could hang out with the stoners, and I could hang out with the brains, and it was fun. And I got great stories about that, just fabulous stories. And I'm still friends with a lot of people I was in high school with who are all make up all these different types of people. And then when you go in the service, that's a friggin' big deal. And that's a pretty big shock for a lot of guys. Like if you're a black guy and you came from a black community and you go in the military, you're like, holy shit, yeah, I've never been around that many white people before. Same thing if you're a white guy and you came from a white bread community, you haven't been around a lot of black people before. You understand? So the military is one of the best melting pots there is, where you get stripped away of all of your identity. They buzz your friggin' head. You're all wearing the same clothes, and you all go through the same stuff together. And you learn pretty quick that all that racial bullshit is bullshit. And you become brothers. And in the Marines, we didn't have black and white. We had light green and dark green. That's how it was. You're all Marines. So that was a nice thing to understand that. I'll tell you something. It's pretty crazy. Marine Corps was they're training you to be a professional killer. That's really what it boils down to. And they used to say things to us like, God loves Marines because we keep heaven stocked with fresh souls. And the streets of heaven are guarded by U.S. Marines. They used to say this to us. And then, we used to have this thing, and forgive me, because I'm going to use some racial slurs here. It's not coming from a hateful place. It's just I'm repeating things we used to say back in the day. But there was this thing, like, all 60 guys, get up or get down. We don't have to repeat this thing. One shot, one kill. All I feel when I kill a gook is the recoil of my rifle, sir. 60 guys booming this. Well, we had Asian guys there, man. I always wondered about that because, we would say it. And so we had this one guy. He was actually in another company. And we were saying this one time. I was looking at him and he was scanning and he locked eyes with me and he just smiled as he's saying, one shot, one kill. All I feel when I kill a gook. Like he saw the absurdity of it, but that's just how they were training us, man. It's crazy. So flash forward now to coming to Los Angeles. This is a pretty diverse city, man. The most racist place I ever lived, in so much as people of color, Hispanic people and black people mostly, will treat white people like they're weak and give them shit. It's pretty crazy, man. I've told some of these stories before. It's been a while, but I've had a lot of interactions here in this community, or where I live, where somebody, other than white, is doing something that's wrong. They're just being obnoxious or loud or whatever. clearly what they're doing is annoying to everybody else around them, but nobody wants to say anything because of the color of their skin, but I don't give a shit, so I go up and say something. And their first thing is to come at me and try to be intimidating. They try to intimidate me, and when they find out that doesn't work, the tone shifts pretty friggin' quick. Um, but that's what they always come at you with that first. They try to use their race to shut you down so that they can get their way, which is bullshit, man. And this is what that side's doing now. And it's a problem. It's a problem for me. So flash forward again to where I became very good at what I do. And now I'm at a point in my life, I've been doing this now for a long time. You guys know it's almost 40 years I've been a craftsman, artist. I design and build really cool stuff. I do a lot of custom built-ins and one-off pieces of art furniture. And, people will pay you a lot of money to do that. I mean, I'm semi-retired. I've been kind of semi-retired for over 15 years. I don't really work that much. I work just enough to pay my bills. If I want something, I work a little harder to get it. I got rid of credit cards years ago. I've got zero debt. So, I have to sell myself to new people in my life all the time. I forgot to look at the watch. Let's say we've been talking for 15 minutes. That feels about right. So, there's another watch. We got to talk about this too. So, out here, there's people that can afford me. I have to deal with the affluent. And there are women and men, or men. They are any color under the sun, Asian people. And when I say Asians, they could be Japanese, Korean, Chinese. That's pretty much it, dealing with those people. And then there's, I've had black clients and a lot of Hispanic clients, all of it. Religions, Christians, Catholics, Sikhs, Hindus, the Jews. The Jews are funny. And it's so crazy with the Jews too, because like a lot of them are perfectly fine. This is so effed up, but it's the truth. The only time I've ever had problems, there's only been a couple times when it came to the money issue, they happen to be the Jewish people, which is crazy. But it's one of those things where you have to look at stereotypes and generalisms, and you have to understand that they exist because generally speaking, they hold to be true, which doesn't mean it's true all the time. But that's just how it is. So I go into somebody's house, perfect stranger, and I'm not bringing up politics, man. I can't do that. I mean, you could shoot yourself in the foot with that. You might not get any work, So I go in there and I size things up and I talk to them about what they want and I see how they're living. And a lot of times I've got to design something for them. So I have to see how they live. So I'm going to build you a coffee table or a dining room table, two of my favorite things to do. And you're eclectic and you've been collecting things for your whole life. Maybe you inherited some pieces, whatever. I could build you a piece where I take little design elements from different pieces that you love and incorporate them into that piece so it ties everything together. It looks like it was all planned. It's friggin' genius, right? And you end up with something, it's the only one like it on the planet. Only one like it in the friggin' universe. So that's a pretty cool thing and it's a cool skill to have. And I go in these people's homes and they start talking to me about things. And it's interesting how this works. So you got right-leaning people, you got centrists, you got leftists, right? I'm just generalizing these three groups so I can make this point. The people who are kind of middle of the road, a lot of times they're almost also the laziest in a way. Like they're actually not paying too much attention to the news, which makes them happier. So they will just say, well, they don't have an opinion on anything because they're not paying attention to it too much. They're the happiest people. The people who lean more to the right, you're going to see it right off the bat. They're going to have those bumper stickers or and they're going to say, oh, yeah, they'll throw out there something positive. Like these days, it'll be something positive about Trump or something. And that's fine, whatever. But the people that lean on the left, they're never the happier people. The other two groups are always happier than the left-leaning people, every single time. And they will start bringing stuff up. They'll be, oh, yeah. I had this client, this jumped out at me just before I did the video. I don't know if it'll be a good point for this, but I just remember, it's a mansion right here, right down the road here. I live in an area, Hancock Park. Look up Hancock Park. I'm just north of Hancock Park. And so I've been working in this area since I moved here. And It's a mansion. And this lady, her husband makes a lot of money and she spends it. And this woman I did a project for a while ago, but I did 3 good projects for them and it transformed the house. It made the house worth a lot more money. And I'll never forget, her phone kept going off and she'd pick up the phone and be like, oh, I can't believe this. Yeah. And then you go, oh, yeah. She was getting news alerts from MSNBC on her phone. And I said, why do you do it? I want to be informed. Like, that they're not really telling the truth. And she's like, oh, and that was like a thing. I realized I couldn't broach that with her anymore. That's not normally how it goes. Normally how it goes is I already had the job and all that. Normally how it goes, I go into somebody's house, they start bringing up the subject, and I let them talk, and then I finally interject. Well, you said a couple things there, and just so you know, what you said is not really how it is. Here's how that really went down. Because at the time I was a political wonk. I was really into it. And I kind of school them on a few things. And I'd correct the record a little bit. And 3 hours would go by. I'm a perfect stranger in their house, man. They've never talked to me before, never met me before. And they're wealthy. They're living in a friggin' mansion. They got Teslas or Range Rovers, multiple, maybe classic cars in the driveway. I went to one lady's house. I wouldn't work for her because I could tell it was going to not be worth it. Every item in the house was worth a fortune. I'm talking lamps, floor lamps, art on the walls, the switch plate covers to turn the lights on and off. Everything was some custom done thing. It was so over the top and very arty. So it was cool. It was like being in a mid 20th century museum, like the LACMA, going to LACMA. And 3 hours will go by. So I've been in somebody's house for over 4 hours, at least once. Usually it's 2 to 3 hours, maybe a little over 3 hours of just talking to them. And every single time I get them to the point where they admit to me that they just don't know enough about what they're talking about. And I let them off the hook. Once I get them to that point, I tell them, this is not your fault, really. You're in a bubble, man. And this is the point I wanted to make with you. I don't live in a bubble because I talk to all these different types of people. I'm going to get to that point in a minute, but I want to finish how I deal with the situation at this point when it happens. Because I explained that. I said, first of all, I can't imagine you have the time to look into all these different issues the way I do. I live alone, man. I don't have any kids that I know about. I'm not married. I don't have a girlfriend that's bleeding me dry, sucking all my energy out of me. So my time is my own. I can look into anything from all different points of view. And I used to do that a lot. I still do now, but less political stuff. Because I've already established a frame of reference in my mind now where I know where things are coming from and I know how things work. I know how the whole world works. I don't feel like the need to get mired down in the minutia of the bullshit anymore. Because that's just there to create more tribalism, and it's a problem. I'll touch on that in a little bit here. So I tell them, I said, look what you have. First of all, I'm here. If I'm here, if you can afford me, you're doing pretty good. And look at the cars you got. Look at the family. Look at the wife. Look at all this stuff. There's no way you have the same kind of time that I do to look into stuff. Again, you live in a bubble. So I would say to them, like, if you put the radio on and you hear a couple things on NPR, you come home at night, you put on Jimmy Kimmel or something like that, you're hearing the same message. You watch some comedy show that these days it's all left-wing stuff, a lot of woke stuff. That's been happening for a long time. That's why I canceled HBO, because all the woke bullshit that they were programming into their shows, I couldn't take it anymore. So if you hear this message a few times a day, every day, and then your friends are watching the same stuff or listening to the same stuff, so when you get together, you're not thinking, you're just repeating the things that you heard somebody else say, and you hear everybody else saying it. Well, now you are in this bubble of bullshit. It's not your fault so much because you're so busy, working hard to build and create everything you need. Plus, you're on a hamster wheel now anyhow. You don't own that house. You know what I mean? Like, it's in your name, but you're making payments on it. You're making payments on all your cars. You're making payments on all the stuff that you own. You are a slave to it, man. Like, how are you supposed to put time into finding truth? It's almost impossible. So you're relying on the talking heads on television for the most part. And as I keep telling you and pointing out, they keep lying to you. But for some reason, you keep listening to the same people lie to you over and over again, and you still keep accepting it as reality. So at some point, it's your fault. You have to pull your own head out of your ass. It's a problem. And this is the point I wanted to make about when I go in and talk to these people. And also, I've dated every kind of woman there is, like every shade of color from pretty much every continent. I've dated a Sri Lankan chick at one point. I mean, you name it, I've done it. All right, so I've got no problems with that, and I have these conversations, and it's pretty wild when you're going out with a black girl, for instance, and you're talking about the cultural differences, and I could go back to when I was a kid with those kids in my school in Patterson and visiting them in the projects and all that stuff, and it's interesting. And being in the service, you learn so much about different types of people because you see them putting the cocoa butter on because they don't want to be ashy. You know what I'm saying? Wearing the do-rag to take care of their hair. I had a black roommate at one point. His name was Tate. He was a friggin' asshole. He was a contract corporal. And when he became my roommate, all of a sudden, the shower pan in the head was black. And and he outranked me, and because I got busted. But I told him, I was like, dude, you are cleaning the pan from now on. He started arguing with me. I said, dude, hey, it was never black until you came here. Is it washing off you or what, motherfucker? But what it is I told him, because I figured it out, it was the grease he was putting in his hair. Right? I put some of that in my hair. I got to clean the floor of my shower. That's what I do, man. So that was his job from then on. He was the guy. He had to clean that shower pan every single week for field day. I wasn't going to put up with that bullshit. So that's a good example of how like a way that somebody else lives that's different than you are creates an issue that you shouldn't have to deal with. They should have to deal with it because the way that they're living, the stuff that they do created that issue. That's their fucking problem now. Let them deal with it. I'm not going to clean that shit up. You understand what I'm saying? That's a great example. I didn't even mean to bring that up. I'm just saying, between all of that, living in the city, dating all kinds of different women, being here every time I go into the Mexican market or anywhere I'm at, Hispanic people speak to me in Spanish. It's hysterical. But I get along with everybody. I get along with all these people. And you know what? I'm still always me. Gay people, too. That's the funny thing. My friends that are gay, and I've got tons of them, gay clients and everything. Now, some of them over the years I've had to stop being friends with because they cross a line consistently. But there's plenty I was friends with for a long. A lot of them are dead now, which is a shame. The AIDS epidemic was a horrible thing to live through here, man. A couple guys I knew that happened to be homosexuals died of AIDS. Oh, it was brutal, man. I was actually an extra in Philadelphia, the Tom Hanks film. I don't know that you would see me. I should try to get that movie and look for it. I was right here on Paramount. There's like a candlelight vigil thing with people walking down the street, and I was in that. But yeah, I had a friend who lived up front here, Bill. I watched him die of AIDS. It was horrible. And my other friend, Paul, what a great guy, man. And it got him. So I'm just saying, if I bring up different types of people or some group of people, it's not coming from a place of hate at all. It's coming from a place of knowing, and I've hung out with, I told you, I hung out with different cliques in high school as an adult. I have hung out with like super wealthy people. I'm 1 degree away from Trump, I mean, which makes me 2 degrees away from every powerful person on the planet. It's freaking crazy. It's insane. Like I hung out with a lot of theater people and actors when I first got here. There was this character actor. His name's Patrick Michler. He was doing Driving Miss Daisy, summer stock theater in the Poconos, where I was working at the biker bar and this restaurant bar, and he was coming into the restaurant bar. And I met Ted Lange. He was on The Love Boat, and Loretta Swit, and all these people that would come in to do these plays. They come to the bar, and I was a pretty gregarious guy, and I was good looking when I was young, and they all told me, you shouldn't be here, you should come to LA, man. When you come to LA, look me up. And Pat was very serious about it. He gave me his phone number. So when I moved out here in September of 92, I looked him up, and he was living over on Mitchell Tarina, right, over here in Silver Lake, and he had this guest house in the back behind this other house, and it was awesome. He invited me to start playing poker with him. and I was playing, and I'm name dropping here, but I'm not name dropping to name drop. This is my life. This is my story. I'm just telling you. But I was playing poker with these character actors, and one of them was Newman, Wayne Knight. And it was awesome. But you can't, just so you know, if you're going to go play poker with a bunch of character actors, just bring enough money and plan on losing all of it, because you just consider it money that you're shelling out to be entertained, because these are funny dudes, man. They're going to make you laugh. They're going to throw your game off. But I mean, I became friends with Brock Peters, right? Black actor, To Kill a Mockingbird. He was also Soylent Green with Charlton Heston. Brock Peters, big time actor. So much so that I was cruising with some friends of mine one day on the 10 in heavy traffic, and Brock Peters had a convertible, like a gold colored Mercedes. And we drive up. I go, "That's Brock Peters. I know him." My friend's like, "No, you don't." And I said, "Hey, Brock." He looks and goes, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" It was awesome, you know. What is her name that was married to Reagan? I can't think of her name right now. Famous actress. I mean, she kissed me right in the mouth. She was an old lady at the time. My point is, I got to meet all these different people that were established actors in Hollywood of all races and men and women alike. And then I did the acting thing out here, and you're getting along with all these people. And again, my clients are all these different types of people, and I get along with all of them. I make them all laugh. I make them all feel comfortable. I've said it before. My dad always said this to me. He said, "Look, I could talk to a bum on the street. I could talk to the Queen of England. I can make them both feel comfortable." So I knew as a young person that that's an important skill to have. And I guess I just developed that over time, and it has helped me. It's helping me here for the most part. I just wanted you guys to understand that. Because a lot of people, and it is a problem, even with people I know, this was a problem for me on social media when Obama was president, and a lot of stuff started coming up about race. And I've got friends back home that live in, like, if you live on the island that I come from, that's a white bread town, man. You know, when I was young, it was pretty much just white people living there. And it was very safe because it was all white people. I mean, nobody locked their doors, nobody locked their cars, you know. And then you got these people, like my friends' parents, other people I know, and they're just saying all these stupid things. They don't know what they're talking about. And we would have these discussions. I had to tell them, "Look, I'm living with these different types of people in the city, and I know these generalizations, but they exist." The generalizations, again, they exist. The stereotypes exist because, generally speaking, they hold true. Over 85% of the time, that's what you find with different groups of people. That's just how it is. All right. Although Greeks don't really fuck sheep. I don't know where that came from. That's the Middle Eastern guys. I don't know any Greek. You can't even joke about being gay in Greece, by the way. Don't do that. All right, you will get your ass kicked. They take that. They're very sensitive about that shit. And there's gay people everywhere. There has always been gay people. There's nothing wrong with gay people. The problem is where we got to a point here where, because it's a small percentage of the population, we got to the point where those people, not all of them, you know, my gay friends over here, got the picture of them. I love those guys. They're not like that. They're actually pretty conservative minded because they're business owners and they've owned restaurants and made movies and all that stuff. So they understand the economic point of view of things, which makes them lean more conservative. And one of them, you wouldn't know he was gay at all. The other guy, he likes being kind of flamboyant about things and saying kind of crazy stuff from time to time just to see how much you could take. But that's also because I lived in New York City for so many years. You start doing that. But the point is, if I can get to it, generally speaking, the stereotypes hold true. That's all I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. So when you hear me talking about different groups, it's because I know. I've immersed myself in. Like I said, I've hung out with super wealthy people, artists, doctors and lawyers, writers, producers, that sort of thing, because I'm out here, but other types of business owners as well. I've also hung out with hardcore criminals and some killers. I mean, I could go from a rich, gay, producer guy to a guy that is a, you know, a mercenary who took me to dinner. I think he was probably sizing me up, you know. And, you know, he was over there in the sandbox and he showed me pictures of his life from all over the planet, going all the way back to the 80s, working for the government and different parts of the earth, dealing with different types of people. And there's pictures of him there with these people with, you know, brand new firearms, you know, USA made guns that he had to train people with and all that. And pictures of him doing all this stuff going back, you know, 40, 50 years. And then jumping to the sandbox era. And he's like, oh, I got shot in the legs. There's a picture of his leg with a hole in it. Then, oh, here's the guy that shot me. And then the next picture is the guy's cock and balls that they cut off. That's a rough one here for YouTube, but that's the truth. So imagine some guy you meet who likes you, talking to you about stuff, takes you out to dinner and shows you that. That's crazy. And you know what? I made him feel great. Got along with him fine. Cracked him up, made him laugh, everything. Just like I do when I go to somebody else's house and talk to them about what's going on in their house. So I'm just saying, every walk of life, everything, I've dealt with it. And not just a simple conversation with a lot of these people. It's like I've dealt with it. 3-patch motorcycle clubs, normal motorcycle clubs. Like I said, I did some hard drug dealers, you name it. I've hung out with them. Hippies naked in hot springs. Everything. So again, when I'm saying something and I end up mentioning a group here and there, this is not like a fantasy in my brain, like I don't know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about because I know them. And I just wanted to, that's really everything I talked about right now up until this point, which has probably been close to 45 minutes or so, has been, I just wanted to make the point. I'm not talking out of my ass. I'm not just inventing things in my mind and saying it to you. It's because I've lived this life where I've done all these things, known all these people, and I still know a lot of them. All right, now, I put the question out to you guys for some suggestions. So I'll go ahead and answer. There wasn't a lot of them. I did a post on the YouTube here. So I said, look, hey there, gang. I have an idea of what I'll talk about tomorrow, which was today, and I just did it. And for the Sunday Night Chat, but I thought it might be fun to ask for any topics you guys might want to hear my thoughts on. Just so much happening in the world. Blah, 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 blah. So the first one was updates on the Arizona headquarters 2 location. So no update. It's still there. I have this company that's been calling me about wanting to try to buy the house from me. I never called them. I get stuff in the mail all the time. The last number that called me was a Phoenix number. Some guy called me a couple weeks ago about it. And it's a spam number. So I answer it. Usually there's nothing there, but the guy started talking to me about it. And I said, well, I'm not looking to sell the house. But, I mean, if I was, I wouldn't give you a number. You'd have to give me a number. That's how it works. I'm in the power seat. I own the property. He started asking about the house, and I told him. Gave him all the details on it. And I said, look, I'm working. You know, get back to me. So a woman called me the other day about it. It was the same conversation. And I told her, so I'm not looking to sell the house. You guys are calling me. She goes, well, how much would you want? I said, it doesn't work like that, sister. You give me a number. I'll tell you what I think about that number. All right? So you think about that. I'll have a nice day. And that was the end of that conversation. But the house is there. I'm still planning. You have to understand, the thing with my sister is a thing. Maybe you don't think it's a big deal. But for me, it's a big deal because I am happy because I avoid stress. I avoid stress by keeping my distance and keeping some people arm's length that are annoying. And even though it's my sister and she's my blood and I love her and I care about her, I'll do whatever I can for her. It's a lot to deal with sometimes. And sometimes I weigh that out. Like, is it worth it? Am I going to have to listen to her say things to me about that house? And because there's only so much of that I can take. You guys don't, I guess you don't know me that well because I will sell that fucking house. I'll burn the house to the ground. I don't give a fuck. Like, if you piss me off enough, I've done some crazy shit. I can't say it here, all the crazy things I've done, because I like not being in prison. But that's how I'm answering that question. All right. how'd you get into woodworking and what made you join the Army? First of all, I wasn't in the Army. I was in the Army. I was in the friggin' Marine Corps. Marine Corps. Army. How did I get into woodworking? Well, I don't know. The only grandfather I ever knew was my grandmother's third husband. He had a woodworking shop in the garage. He barely ever said more than 2 words at a time to me. But he would let me hang out in the garage and watch him work when I was real little. So I guess I always had the aptitude to build things and use tools. I was just born with that. And then I had the shop classes in school. Like when I was in Patterson, it was PS 27, Patterson, New Jersey. Look it up, PS 27. And fourth grade to eighth, well, fourth grade, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh grade, you had half a year at shop, half a year at home ec. Eighth grade, you got to choose, and I chose home ec, which is kind of weird based on what I do for a living now. But I did home ec because you've heard me say this before, but that's where the girls were, and that's where you learn how to cook, and there was food, and I learned how to use a sewing machine and make shit. So to me, that was cool. Excuse me. At that point in time, the woodworking and everything was easy, but it was a bunch of jerk-offs, man. Like a bunch of guys, like the whole earlobe plucking thing and people screwing with one another and playing grab ass and everything else. I was already, in my mind, way above that. I never wanted to participate in that thing. I didn't, so the chicks were fun. They were more fun to talk to. And I felt like I was going to learn more and be more fun in the home ec class. So that's why I did that. I forgot to fill my water glass here. There's just a couple drops left. Let's see if we can get through this without needing any more. So that was my earliest. Well, my earliest job. I almost forgot this. You've heard me say it a million times. Al Pinelli was building a house behind Elaine's Bakery bake shop in Seaside Park, New Jersey. And as a little kid, I don't know, I was probably like 5 years old or something. They built the house there, and there was an old guy I remembered. He was siding the house. It was all redwood. And I was bugging him with questions about what he was doing and whatnot. And to get me out of his hair, he gave me a magnet and a job. He said, walk around the house, because it was sand, beach sand. He said, pick up all the nails I dropped in the sand. So I'd have to drag this magnet through the sand. And I did that, and it got me out of his hair. And then I brought all the nails back to him. He was freaking amazed, because I found every single nail he dropped. And he gave me $5. That's, think about that. It probably took me an hour. So $5 an hour as a 5-year-old in 1972 or something. Shit. When I got out of the Marines in 1987, I was only making $4.75 an hour. So I was already getting top dollar as a 5-year-old. It should be no shock that I can charge the kind of money I do now. So I guess that's my first entry into it. When I was in high school, I didn't do shop. I did architecture, and I was the #1 architect. My senior year, I graduated the top architecture student in the school, and I won 3 first-place state awards for a full working set of drawings, my plot drawing, and a colored pencil perspective drawing, elevation drawing of a house. And I took 3rd place in a drafting competition with like 400 people. So that was a thing. But I remember my buddy Todd, his dad owned some property in Seaside Heights, and he built these condos. So on weekends and whatnot, I would kind of help out. But that was just gopher stuff and cleaning up. I wouldn't say there was real construction work. And when I got out of the Marines, my buddy George was working for Berkeley Construction. They owned the marina in Seaside Park, and they were building these condos there, which was a huge fiasco, and the town stopped them. But anyhow, I started as a gopher there, and then we put in some sliding doors. We're cleaning up, and they had to stop that project, and there was some bitterness there between the town and the guy that owned that property was doing that project. So he bought other properties, and we built a bunch of houses. And one of his sons had left home at an early age and learned to build homes and build furniture and all that. And he learned by these old guys, by masters. So he saw that I had the aptitude for it. He took me under, his name was Phil. And so Phil took me under his wing, and in the marina, there was a boat building. They used to build boats there back in the day. So we had a boat building that had a wood shop. We had all the machines you need to build anything. And we built everything there. So when we built the houses, we also did, well, we had cabinets that were supposed to be for the condos, which we used in these houses to save money. But, we framed the houses and did all of it. I started off learning to put forms in to pour concrete footings. And then we did the block work, and I mixed all the cement for 3 houses for the block work. And I was working with these guys that were masons that were in World War II. So they taught me masonry, and then we framed the houses, and we did everything. We did everything except the plumbing and the electrical and the roofing. So that's where I basically learned my skills, and then I went from like $4.75 an hour to like $8 an hour within a year. And $8 an hour in 1988 was pretty good money. And then I left there and I started working with this guy doing home improvements, Roy Karch, R&R Home Improvement. Learned a lot from him. About coming into a house that's already built and now doing work and putting in garage doors and putting air conditioners in walls, making a hole in the wall, taking out a window and putting a sliding door in, putting a vaulted ceiling in a house, all that stuff. And then after that, I did cabinet job. Like I worked in a bunch of different cabinet shops. So building cabinets, doing Formica, laminate countertops, things like that, which I had learned when we were building the houses with Berkeley Construction. And then I met this guy, Bill. We built his house. And then he and I did a lot of that. We did additions on houses. We framed a bunch of houses all over, from Bricktown to Tom's River and everything. Framed houses, me and him. We were a good crew. We could get way more done than 5 guys. I mean, it was amazing the way we worked together. And he went back to teaching, and I was kind of like treading water there for a minute. And I finished up a couple jobs on my own, and then I decided to go back to college. And I'd gotten in, before he went to teaching, I had already started tending bar. And so, yeah, I just basically did the nightclub work and went to college for a couple of years. But I also did some construction during that time. Like the people that ran that nightclub had a house on the ocean in Seaside Park, and I took a wall down and put a beam up to support it. Like I would do projects for people here and there, just like I do today, all the way back then. And then when I moved out here to Los Angeles, which is a whole crazy story in itself, why, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I've told it before. I moved into this apartment, and a woman that lived here was doing a play that she helped co-write, and she was helping to produce it. And I designed and built the sets for that play. And then I did more theater. And that's when I started meeting all these people, like, rich and famous types and actors and all that. And like every job I ever had, like even when I tended bar in Pennsylvania before I came out here, I did remodeling work on the bar and painted it to make extra money. So it didn't matter what I was doing, because when I first moved here, there used to be a place called Brian Jeffries Design Greenhouse on Melrose, and I went in there for a job selling them on the fact that I could do that stuff. So if you're a younger person, my advice to you, or if you have children, kids that are adults, young adults, or they're about to be, you have to drive home trade, learn a trade. Learn how to work with your hands, learn how to fix stuff, learn how to use tools. I don't care if you're going to go to college and become an attorney and run a business, do all these things and make millions of dollars. You should know how to use tools and how to fix stuff on your own. Even if you decide you're going to pay other people, maybe you learn it and learn enough that you don't like it, so you want to pay other people to do it. At least you know. It helps you from getting ripped off later down the road, because you know. So anyhow, that's the story. And one thing just led to another. I was in the film business for a while. And even during that time, I was still doing side projects. In the 90s, I blew my ankle out on a big movie. Robert Downey Jr., Meg Ryan, Sam Neill, Restoration. And I couldn't work for about 4 years after that because I had 3 ankle operations, ligament reconstruction. It was horrible. I was on disability. Over the years, I had a lot of accidents, job incidents. Happened on a TV show as well. I blew a knee out on a TV show, but also motorcycle accidents, all of it. I did the math at one point. I think it was about 9 years I lost that I couldn't work due to injury. All kinds of different injuries, most of which, well, not all of it, but a lot of it I needed surgeries for. And then some of it I didn't actually need to get surgery, but I still had to go do physical therapy to fix my body. I've been beat up, man. So, and I've been places and done some things too that fucked me up. So, plus, we'll get to this. Anyhow, that's kind of the story. And when I blew the ankle out, during that period when I could walk, I would take on little projects. People were hitting me up to make them something. So I taught myself how to build furniture in the late 90s. I'm a self-taught furniture designer and builder. All right. That's a long friggin' answer. Let's try to make the rest of them short so we can get this video done here. Honestly, it's your show. If I wanted my input, I'd talk to the mirror. It's just Ashley Anderson. Well, I guess that's a woman. That's kind of a man thing to say. I love it. That's very Jersey, Ashley. I talk to the mirror. That's something I would say. But you open the door. They want a VA update. Oh, the chick from my past. Yeah. So I mentioned the chick from Jersey a while ago. I've always had the hots for her, man. And she's drop dead gorgeous, and she has this infectious personality, and she started talking to me, and she's in a situation that she complains about. But here's the thing. I can only listen to a woman complain about, or anybody, complain about their circumstances a couple times before I start saying, well. And then if I see that they're not going to do anything to change the situation they're in, but they just want to bitch about it, now I know that's somebody I have to distance myself from a little bit. And I think the reality is I saw her Instagram around Christmas time. All of a sudden she was wearing this big rock on her finger, and she was telling me how the guy wasn't marrying her, didn't want to marry her. And I think what she may have done is use me to make him jealous so he'd put a ring on her finger. However, I could be wrong about that, so if you're watching there, sorry if I got that wrong, but that's how it looks to me. And if you want to correct the record, call me, because I haven't heard from her since this time either. But I think that's what's going on. And the thing is, if everything she was telling me about this guy is true, she's about to make the biggest mistake of her life because she's going to be unhappy. And I think she's getting pressure from family members and mom, that sort of thing. And so maybe I dodged a bullet on that. As far as the VA update, it's in the works. I'll just say it. I wasn't going to say this because I didn't, maybe it won't happen. But you guys deserve an update. So, because even I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs waiting. Because remember, I made 3 claims. It was the hearing, the tinnitus thing, the ankle issues, and then the PTSD for the shit that they put me through. And which I thought to myself, I don't know if any of this is going to go through. If any of them go through, it would be the ankles. So the hearing thing, they gave me 10% hearing loss, which is like roughly $175 a month. Well, I got a couple checks for that. That's when I realized, oh shit, this is real. I went to the hearing for the ankles, and somehow it got denied, which makes no sense. And that really put me off. And I called a guy who's retired out. He's a tier 1 special operator, badass dude, done some shit. And he retired. So he gets his retirement, and he's got 100% disability. So I talked to him, and he got it because of this guy who used to work for the VA. So I called him up. I'm going to do a whole video on this. So I called him up, and he said, look, get me your medical records, and then when your PTSD hearing comes up, give me a call first. And that's what I did. He didn't coach me on the PTSD at all, but because I told him, don't worry, I got it under control. Because I've had a bunch of issues where I dealt with attorneys when I've had accidents, and I know what to say. But also, everything I'm saying is the truth. And some of it's even in my records. And I have a record of this going back decades, me talking about it, saying the same things over and over and over again. But he did send me 3 sheets that mentioned stuff that you should mention, and there was a couple things in there that were 100% accurate, but I would have never have thought to mention them in the interview if I hadn't seen it. So it's good that he sent me that. So I did the PTSD hearing before the holidays, and then after the holidays I called him. He said that they gave me 70% disability for the PTSD. Now, then there was this thing that came through where they had to okay it, and I had to be available for the phone if they called, but they never called. So I called him again, and he told me, he says, well, it went through, I saw it. So I'm nervous because I'm just waiting now, because there's going to be, I should end up getting a couple checks for that then. It'll be backdated to when I filed, and then the check every month. The way he explained it to me is that the 70% for the PTSD, which is great, by the way. Again, I'm going to do a whole video talking about this, because it legitimizes everything I've been saying all these years to my friends and everything else, that they couldn't, I don't think everybody I talk to, when you're having a conversation with somebody, they don't always listen to everything you're saying. So to them, it might be hard for them to understand how these things went down, but I'll tell the story when I do the video. I don't want to get too deep into it now, but the point is, he's adamant that it went through, and I'm just waiting right now for the letter and the checks and everything else. So, but he also told me that the 70% PTSD is 70%. And I need, because I didn't do 4 years, you need 70% disability rating to get 100% medical. So this is very exciting for me, because I'll be able to go to the VA for medical and everything else. And that's what I really need to know. So it's 70% now. The remaining 30% is what they would take the other percentages out of. So the 10% for the hearing now becomes 10% of the 30%, which makes it only 3%, which puts me now at 73% disability. Now, once all that comes through and the checks are coming, then he goes ahead and he goes back after the ankle stuff and all the other stuff he found in my medical record, and he feels pretty good that he thinks he can get me to at least 90%, possibly even 100, which would be wonderful. But I can sit here and hope for that, but you know what they say, hope in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up first. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, this is great, because I don't have the checks yet, right? Maybe somebody will cancel the 70%. I don't know. But this one issue right now does have me, I don't like being in an anxious state of mind. I don't like being there, and that has put me there, and I hate it, and it is stifling me a bit. It's keeping me from getting some stuff done and making plans and getting back to a few people on things I want to do this coming spring and summer, because everything's predicated upon that. Because if that goes through, I'm going to be in a good spot where I can get some things done, because financially I'll be in a better place. So prayers and well wishes in my direction would be greatly appreciated. So now you got that one. We've probably been talking an hour already. I'll try to knock this out here. Okay, how about the latest on the recent 2 airplane crashes? Okay, look, this goes to what I was saying about the media earlier. I think in the end it's going to end up just being an accident. Stop with believing all these conspiracy theories. If one of them turns out to be true, fine. I'm not saying it's not done on purpose or something like that, but I think it's just that helicopter was not where it was supposed to be. I think it was too high, and we don't know anything about the Philly thing yet. Wait for the investigation. It's one of my biggest pet peeves is, here's what's happening. We're going to have all the speculation, and then a bunch of people start believing all these different, it creates tribalism and division. Just the speculation. And my advice to you is stop watching it. Why are you watching it? I think the news should be, we're going to go to Bob, who's on the scene right now. There's just been a plane crash. Thank you, Jim. Hi, I'm Bob so-and-so, and right now there's been an accident. There's been a plane crash. We have no idea what happened. We do have some video footage, and you can see here this helicopter comes up and the plane hits it. That's all we know. What we'll do is, we'll ask as many questions as we can to people on the ground. We'll keep looking at the video. We'll have our experts check it out, and then we'll get back to you tomorrow when we know more. And then Jim in the station go, thanks, Bob. In other news, and then move on to the next thing. All right? Because there's other shit happening all the fucking time. Stop with this nonstop, 24/7, just boom, 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 boom on everything. Because if it bleeds, it leads, man. And it becomes a soap opera, and the news is not a fucking soap opera. It pisses me off because so many of you are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because they're showing you this shit, which is fucking horrible. They want to show you the most horrendous shit. They want to repeat the most horrendous shit and just get you all fucking crazy, and you are participating in the fucking crazy shit that's going on in your brain because you keep watching it. Shut it off. Shut it off. That's how I'm answering that one. All right. I don't fucking know. You don't know. They don't know. When they know, you'll find out. Hopefully. Talk about what makes you happy and reduces stress. You're running around a lot like a chicken with no head. Yeah. You got to jerk it off regularly. That's what you got to do. Yeah, man. I mean, I need, well, I mean, I'm not lying about that. I mean, you got to take care of it. You know, you got to release that stress. If I didn't do that pretty regular, I would have been put in prison for murdering somebody a long friggin' time ago. Trust me, I'd be walking around like this all the time. It's not good. And some guys say, just get a girlfriend. It's just not worth the aggravation. Because if you want to have somebody in your life just so you have somebody to have sex with, but a lot of the times it comes with all this other shit, all this other baggage, and then their problems become that. A relationship is when their shit becomes your shit, and I don't like other people's shit being part of my shit. Your shit is your shit. My shit is my shit. I'm not going to make my shit part of your shit. You understand what I'm saying? So have the common. Plus, with women, my biggest thing with them, sorry, ladies, I'm generalizing, is they don't want to fix anything anyhow. They don't want any solutions to anything. They just want somebody to listen to them bitch all the time. And I've already touched on this, 20 minutes ago or so. I can only take so much bitching. I want to solve it so you can stop fucking bitching. And then when let's say you get the one who's like, thank you so much, you helped me solve this problem. And then within 2 weeks, there's something else that they're bitching about. It's a non-stop bitch fest. Can't take it. So what do I do? Every single day, I make the time for myself. So typically by 8 o'clock at night, I don't have any of the notifications on my phone on. Like my phone makes no noise other than ringing if there's a phone call. So if I get a text or whatever, I have no idea until I pick up the phone. So I never have the phone in my pocket. It's always off to the side. I put it up here. I put it over there. I put it over here. And from time to time throughout the day or the night, I pick up the phone and check it out, keep up with some stuff, and that's how I do it. If I kept getting a beep or a buzz every time there was a text message, and listen, this is a message to some of you. There's people I know, like actually know, partied with, rode motorcycles with, went out with, whatever, who send me stuff every single day. So there's a couple guys, a few people on Instagram, people I've known for decades. Every day they send me something. I'm just telling you right now, I don't have the time to watch it. I don't watch it. Every once in a while it looks interesting enough and I got an extra couple minutes, I'll hit it. Oh, okay, yeah. And maybe I'll make a comment. But mostly I look at it, I scroll to the next thing. I am not watching your videos that you're sending me. I'm not doing it. And it's a problem now because I let a bunch of people come in on Facebook. Thank you for being here. It's great. But some of you are sending me stuff. There's already a dozen people or more that I've known in 3D, that I've interacted with, that I know. They're my friends. I talk to them on the phone as it is, who send me shit every day. Now there's all these new people that I don't know at all, really, who are also now sending me stuff. What pisses me off the most is when it's the conspiracy stuff on all the stuff that's got the fires and everything else. It's stop. It's almost like there's an assumption that I don't know. And some of it I don't know because I'm not watching it purposefully. But a lot of it I already know. A lot of you are sending me shit I've already seen. You would have no way of knowing that. But just pull it back a little bit. I'd appreciate it. I love you. Thanks for being here. I know you're showing me that you care and you want to interact and it's cool, but I can't deal with it. So as far as dealing with it, I'm trying to answer the question. So 8 o'clock at night, I don't talk on the phone. I don't take any phone calls. I'm watching YouTube. I'm watching a movie or something, and that's how I deal. I separate myself from my reality and watch something else. I just got wrapped up in a series. I don't like getting wrapped up in series, but I caught this one. It was called The Recruit on Netflix. Netflix is cool because the series comes on and you can just binge watch the whole series. So 8 episodes, 7 episodes, whatever. I watched the first season. It took me last week. I watched 2 episodes a night till it was over. And then yesterday I watched the whole second season like that, and it was awesome. I highly recommend it, The Recruit. So that's for me to answer the question. That's how I do it. Also crafts, things I could lose myself in. Nick, I think it's a picture of a watch. So this is the latest. This watch is a watch I've been looking at for a long time. I'll do a video on it. It's a 7S35 movement, and it's very cool. It's a 200-meter diver, dual crown. It's got an internal compass bezel, which is, kind of a gimmick. But it's just a real cool watch. And if you were to look up the 7S35 movements on eBay, like watches with that movement, for whatever reason, they're very expensive. They're like $800 and higher. People want $1,500. I mean, more for that. And it doesn't have hacking or winding. So it is a decorative movement, or it's decorated more than the 7S36 or any other Seiko movements I've ever seen. It does have an extra jewel or two. So I don't know, but it seems to be a highly desirable movement. This watch in particular is very desirable. And orange is the best color for being underwater. Not like I'm going to start diving, but that's cool. So that's that one. When are you moving to Arizona? Do you think it's a good move for anyone? How expensive do you think it is? I know you can afford it, but what about your subscribers? Arizona is very affordable. This whole thing of moving there, it's a thing. I have this, what my issue is there. I've already mentioned it. So I don't know, pretty soon I'll be going back to bring some more stuff. I've worked for the last 3 weeks on this house, but I wasn't working full time, and I'm giving them a really good break. So it's not like I'm rolling in the dough. I kind of need another project or so to come in to make some money. Or if this 70% with the VA thing goes through and they send me a check, it'll be backdated to like last summer when I filed. So that's going to be pretty significant because when I go, I told my sister I'm going to take all of her stuff out of the house and I'll pay for the storage fees for a year. And she probably won't even have to keep it that long. But because I have to get her stuff out of there so I can start working on the house. So there's no answer right now as to when I'm moving there. But it's kind of in the works right now. Arizona's a lot cheaper than California. I think anybody else could afford it if you live in a blue state where your fuel is through the roof. I mean, last time I was in Arizona, it was under $3 in a lot of places a gallon for gas. And out here, it's almost $5 a gallon in most places. So, yeah, rent's way more affordable. Although there's a complaint there by people who are in Arizona that rents have been going up because so many people from California have been moving there. So that's a problem. It's just going to depend. Every state has the same issues. There are certain cities and towns in every state that cost more than others. So you can find a cheap way to live there or anywhere else. What's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? I think that's approximately 68.7 miles per hour. But if they're carrying like a branch or some little piece of shit that they want to make a nest out of, that drastically reduces it by about 2 miles per hour. How the hell am I supposed to answer that question? I don't know. All right, that's it for now. But thanks for that one. All right, that's it. Not as funny today, I don't think. But I just want to get that off my chest. I just want to just sum this up. Stop watching the news. It's not the news. It's there. It's set up there to program your mind with a bunch of nonsense for the most part, and help to categorize you into a particular tribe that can then argue with the other tribes. It's all about tribalism. Stop watching it. When these channels are trying to convince you that Joe Rogan is a journalist or something, he's not. Joe Rogan doesn't claim to be an expert on anything other than fitness, comedy, fitness and comedy for the most part, and hunting maybe. Other than that, he's just a pretty smart guy, above average intellect that enjoys talking to interesting people. And matter of fact, I should have looked it up first. I don't remember the guy's name. Last week, there was an episode. Heavyset guy with a mustache, kind of bald, with a big black dude. So if you see the thumbnail, that's the one you want to watch. And this dude, dealt with aliens, man, and spacecraft and all that. And he was on another show, the Jimmy Dory show, and that episode was 3 hours of my time. It was a total waste of my time. It was a horrible interview. They talked about his childhood, all this other ancillary bullshit. He gets to this point where he sees this blue person with no ears and big eyes on the side of the road and camis. He has this telepathic communication with him while other people are watching. And that was like about 5 minutes of that whole episode. And I was so pissed. But then he went on Rogan and with this other guy. And it was such a better interview because Rogan, he talks about other stuff, he gets into that stuff, but he makes it interesting and he's really curious. And that's the thing. I could probably do what he does. I'm not trying to say I'm as good as Joe Rogan is or as smart as he is or anything else. We have some similarities. I used to do Taekwondo as well. My experience with Taekwondo, if I told you what I went through with Taekwondo, you would think I was bullshitting you. You wouldn't believe it anyhow. I would love to meet Joe Rogan and have that conversation because he would think I was full of shit too. But I got the receipts. We could call people, so that would be cool. But he's just a good conversationalist and he's naturally curious and he tries not to be too judgmental. He's gotten better as he's gotten older, obviously, as we all do. So, but stop with this thing that the left tries to convince you that he's some sort of hardcore right-wing guy. And no, he's just a dude likes talking. And he's popular and he's funny and he's goofy. And, I don't even like a lot of Joe Rogan stuff because when he has his bros on, the other comics, it's all inside baseball with their lives and drama and everything else. It's like some of it's kind of funny. I've been watching it because I really want to break into the comedy thing. So I feel like I got to know some of it. But a lot of these guys are people I would not want to even be friends with. This is going to come back to bite me in the ass one day. But so you have to pick and choose with Rogan. The beauty of it is he talks to such a diverse group. He'll talk to anybody that he wants to talk to, anybody he finds interesting. And because he has a diverse mindset of interest, plus if a new thing pops up on the horizon of current events and he looks into that world and he sees somebody there that seems interesting to him, he'll have that person on the show to talk to, which would help you. This goes back to what I was saying about the difference between Fox and CNN, for instance. With Fox, they have people on that have different viewpoints, so you can listen to their arguments. Well, with Rogan, it's similar. So if you're following a certain issue, and then Rogan has a guy on that's in the middle of that issue, well, now there's a conversation that could be 2 hours or 3 hours of that guy telling you what he knows about his life, that issue. And you can weigh that out with your own brain. And you could take the stuff that person says and look it up and write it down and then research what that person said to see if it follows true for you. And that conversation that you just watched could 100% change your view. It could make everything the media's been telling you seem like bullshit. Because now you're listening to the inside guy. Because the thing with the media is, you might have somebody on, they'll talk for 3 minutes with somebody. Max, usually. Right? Versus 3 hours. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why YouTube and whatever, Rumble or any of the other, I don't know what Rumble is actually. I think it's a similar thing. That's why that's so much better than mainstream media. That's why the mainstream media, or the left-leaning mainstream media, is trying to marginalize YouTube and podcasters. Podcasters, they're not journalists. They don't have to be. They're just a person like me and you having an open conversation with another person who might be in the mix of a current event, current topic right now. And there's no better way to get that information other than sitting down with that person and having that talk for hours. YouTube trumps the media now because you can actually and you can find information. I love YouTube You can find information. You can learn how to work on your car on YouTube. You can learn how to do leathercraft on YouTube. I've been watching old interviews on Johnny Carson. It's great. I'm watching an episode, a show now, 10 Speed and Brown Shoe. Jeff Goldblum and LeVar. No. Oh, this black actor. He's such a good talent. I can't think of his name right now. He used to be a household name. Now I can't think of his name. Ben Vereen. What an actor. Ben Vereen plays a con man. Jeff Goldblum is this guy. He's a stockbroker, but he's a smart guy. And it just so happens he has a black belt in karate, and he was on some shooting team. He has all these skills, but he didn't do it because he wanted to be a badass. He was just interested in it. This develops in the pilot episode, and they come into each other's lives. And after the pilot episode, Jeff Goldblum decides to become a PI, and Ben Vereen is his partner. So I've only watched the pilot and the second episode so far, and I think it's only 8 or 10 episodes. It never got picked up beyond that. And it's a fabulous show. That's a show that should be remade. You know what sucks about that show? The music. The title music they have for it is fucking horrendous, and they play the same music at the break. It just turns you off. It's the worst music. If they would add a cool tune, even Magnum PI for the first couple seasons had horrible music, but then it went bum bum bum. You got to the Magnum PI song. That's what that Barney Miller, any of those great shows with great theme music, Hill Street Blues. That's what they needed for that show. The music made it seem like it was some sort of comedy circus routine or something, but it's cool. It's a 10 Speed and Brown Shoe. Who'd have thought? I'm just saying YouTube has everything. So don't knock YouTube. Watch more YouTube, watch less media on the TV. All right. Watch more YouTube, listen less to NPR. Watch more YouTube, watch less PBS. All right. If you do that, and if you're going to want to watch stuff on the plane crashes or the drones, I wanted to touch on this too. Boy, we're going long today. On the drone situation, the White House put a thing out basically saying that it was stuff we know about, which is a lie. 1952, when the UFOs appeared over Washington, D.C., the Capitol building and the White House for quite a long period of time. They were up there all the time. They would scramble jets. They'd disappear. The jets would leave. They'd come back. They had some, I think it was an Air Force colonel or something, get on television basically saying what the White House just said. We don't know what they are, but we know that they're not dangerous. They're not going to hurt us. So it's the same message, which tells you it's not drones, it's not man-made drones, it's UFOs. That's what it is. It's what it's always been. There's a historical record for this. I did a whole video on this already. That's what's going on. That's what I think anyhow. But if you want to know more about it, where are you going to go? You're going to go to YouTube. Stop watching the media. Media is lying to us all the time. Have a great day. Be kind to one another. I will catch you in the next one. There'll be more, I promise.